Today it is my pleasure to bring to you on this episode of Silent Voices a woman named Lisa Smith. Now, Lisa has been through a lot with the family court system, and she came to tell her story of what she has been through. Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us on Skype. We appreciate those of you who are willing to share your story with us, even if you are in another state or too far away to come and film. Lisa Smith, welcome to the show. Lisa, can you share with us your experience with family court system?
My first experience with family court was I was getting divorced, and I had left an abusive situation. Me and the kids did. And I had a hard time finding an attorney, didn't have a lot of money, and legal aid had turned me down 4 times. So with that, I did find an attorney that took a small retainer. However, when we got into court, I thought that this system was going to help me. And what I learned through a very lengthy 4-day hearing was that there was not going to be any help for me and my children. So that began in 2008. Been in and out of family court for approximately 5 years.
At that time, you had been in and out of court for 5 years?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And still in court. I am getting ready to go back to court for custody of my daughter. So it was I would say one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my life, because my perception of family court was that I was going to get the help for me and my kids that was needed, and it didn't happen. So it was pretty devastating. I was on the stand for 4 hours being grilled by my ex's attorney, and my attorney didn't do anything at all. Didn't object at anything. He so it was kind of it was pretty traumatic.
That definitely sounds traumatic. And what was taking place during the time that you had custody for them 5 years?
Yes, in 2010, I was awarded custody, primary physical custody of the children, which are twins. I have 4 children. The last 2 were my exes with myself. And he was fighting me for custody. He wanted the 50-50 thing. And with the abuse that had happened in the marriage, and it continuing after I had left with the children, I wasn't willing to do that. However, he was still fighting me for it.
Okay, Lisa, just one quick question. Did you have documented abuse in that relationship, and was he ever arrested for domestic violence?
He was not. I believe, and I will be very blunt about this, one of my biggest mistakes that I made was I feel instead of calling the DHS system, which is the Department of Human Services in Iowa, every time there was an incident, I should have been calling the police, because then I would have had a paper trail of things that were happening. Instead, there was a lot of cover-up, I believe. I've tried to get records of things from the DHS system. They refused to give them to me. So it's been a very lengthy process.
Okay, Lisa, just one quick thing. Many moms do not report abuse for fear of retaliation or the family court issues that come along with reporting. Many of us have reported, and it made absolutely no difference. We still lost our children despite the fact that they were convicted abusers. It doesn't seem like that's really a make it or break it issue.
Well, it doesn't, it's kind of the lesser of the both evils, you know. I just don't, I don't understand. I mean, I'm still, I'm still fighting, but yet I still do not understand why it happened, why abuse is just disregarded in family court. It makes absolutely no sense, and trying to figure it out makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense.
That's completely true, Lisa. And in light of the race abuse that is going on right now, we will see if that makes a difference in cases which children are involved. I don't think they had children together at the time of the abuse. Instances like this come and go. They do not seem to make a real impact or a difference to the children. So the children you have with your ex-husband, it's my understanding that they are twins. And they are a boy and a girl. And can you tell me what their ages are?
Their ages at this particular time are 16. I don't have my son. My daughter is living with me here in Wyoming, and I am from Iowa. That is where the case was. However, 4 years ago, in which there is no place in my divorce decree that says that I could not leave the state of Iowa. However, the abuse continued with them, and I did report abuse. However, again, the DHS system disregarded it because I said it and he denied it, so it really didn't happen, even though the kids said it happened. My daughter was sexually abused by my ex's brother, and she was told that if she told, that her uncle would go to prison. She was 9 or 10 at the time. So there was a lot of manipulation going on, and I felt that I had no other choice but to get them out of that environment. So in 2010, as soon as the divorce was final in June, and in September I packed up as much as I could get in my car and came to Wyoming. My oldest daughter lives here, and she got me in contact with the domestic violence people here, and I began talking with them and making a safety plan. So it was, I just knew that if I did not get him out of this situation, it was not going to get any better. And they were not going to have the life that they are supposed to be kids. And this, the trauma, my son had tried to commit suicide, had been in the hospital in Iowa, and again, it was just like it was disregarded, like, no big deal. My daughter, since this, when we first came here, she also, it was like all this heaviness was on them. And it was very freeing to get out of the situation or away from him. However, that's when it seemed like the pressure was on, more so, on the children. Their emotions started coming out. More things came out regarding the abuse. And the first year was a lot of counseling. A lot of counseling.
Yeah.
But so all three of us had been in counseling for the first year. It was every week.
Okay.
And sometimes twice a week.
Now, did your children ever witness this abuse, that your ex-husband, when he harmed you?
Yes, they did.
Have they ever been
In fact, you know how they say that the kids, they don't see. Well, there was times that my son had said something, or said something regarding to his guidance counselor about seeing his dad on top of me. And I didn't even know that he saw it. So, and nothing was done. It was as though, okay, it happened, but, he says it happened, but, Dad says it didn't. So if there's no proof, then I guess it really didn't happen as far as the system, whatever you want to call it.
Sometimes when children get to a safe place, if they have experienced post-traumatic stress disorder, it does not come out till they are feeling safe. And that's what it sounds like with your children. Once they're out of the situation, they are free to express it. That is when the nightmares can start and various acting out behaviors.
Right, and that's exactly what happened. Actually, my daughter has since been diagnosed with PTSD. My 16-year-old daughter. My son has been diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome in Iowa before we ever moved here to Wyoming, and has since he has been back with his father, has been taken off his meds, which were prescribed, and also he no longer goes to counseling, and has very little contact with me. That first year, he had a lot of freedom, so did Hope, to express themselves and not have the fear that they had when we were back in Iowa. There was a beginning of a healing going on. However, then in 2011, that all changed.
What exactly, Lisa, happened in 2011?
As I had mentioned earlier, I had primary physical care of the kids, primary custody, and we had joint custody together, and he had visitation.
So
However,
that would be joint legal custody.
right,
Okay.
right, correct. Well, I was unable to get back to a court hearing in the early 2011. I had written letters to the court asking for a hardship if I could appear by phone because I had no money, starting completely over, and my car wouldn't make it. So I faxed a letter, I sent a letter 3 different times. I got no response from the court. And so when I didn't show up for that hearing, there was a warrant for my arrest, a bench warrant for my arrest, because I didn't show up for court. So with that being said, it was getting even more traumatic. Well, in June 21st, the day before the twins' birthday, they were 13. Day before their 13th birthday, their father, his attorney, had gone to court and proceeded to, since I was in default, get an order that was bogus as far as I was concerned. And their father showed up at my door with a police officer and proceeded to say he wanted to see the children. And I said, there's a problem with that, because if the kids see you, they are going to flip out. And he said, well, I want to see them. Well, I told the officer, I said, he has abused the children, and they are on, if I go up and I wake them up, this is 7:30 in the morning. If I go up and I wake them up, they are going to flip out. Well, the officer said to me, you need to contact GARP, which is the domestic violence shelter.
Right.
So that's what I did. We went into the shelter for the weekend, and I'm thinking that, well, he's, left or whatever. Well, we come back home on that Monday, and my daughter went over to a friend's house. I dropped her off at a friend's house. And my son was at home by himself, and we had already talked about a safety plan, don't answer the door, those different things.
Right.
And he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And when I got home, there were 2 police officers with their father at my door, and they said, we have an order that says that the children need to go with their father. And I flipped. I don't even know how to describe the feeling, because it was just beyond my comprehension. My son was in my bedroom, underneath my bed. It took the police 2 hours talking to him and me. I asked for his counselor. I asked for the DFS, that's what they call it here, Child Protective Services. I asked them to call his counselor and DFS. They would not do it. My son was freaking out. I mean, just totally flipping out. And I'm in the other room, and they told me that if I did not calm down, that I was going to get arrested.
Wow.
So with that being said, I can't, I said, I just couldn't believe that it was happening. I was so in shock that I just couldn't believe it. I did not ask them to come into my home. They just followed me into the door. So I was not, I was between a rock and a hard place at that particular point.
Now, you stated that it took them 2 hours to get your son out of the home. What was his response to them saying that he had to go with his father? How did he react to that news?
Well, he kept screaming, I don't want to go with him. He's hurt me. I don't want to go with him. And it's like, okay, what point is it okay for a child of 13 years old? I mean, if he doesn't want to go, then there's a reason why he doesn't want to go. I mean, if he's saying to the police officer, he's hurt me. So what, I do not understand how they are there to protect us. No, that you just don't do that.
It sounds as if he may have been re-traumatized by this experience and the situation that was being forced upon him.
Oh yes, very, very much so. I have worked through my own I have been diagnosed with PTSD, and it has been a very long road. And I know, without a doubt, he's never been able to deal with any of this, because God only knows really what's been told to him. I've talked to my son 10 times in 3 years.
Wow.
And I call every Wednesday and every Sunday and leave messages and ask to have him call me back.
I assume that you call him 2 times a week because that's what was court ordered in your particular case.
Well, what it says in the court order, and I will give you a copy of that, okay, is that I am to have supervised visits.
Okay.
What that looks like, it doesn't really say. It just says supervised visits. So, and I went back to Iowa last year and proceeded to go to the visitation place that I had used once before to see him, and I was denied that visit. His father denied that visit, saying he did not want to see me.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm speculating that they said you needed supervised visitation because you fled with the children. Is that accurate?
Well, that's the impression that I get from this order that I was given. Yes.
Okay.
That was the impression that I didn't allow him to see the kids when he was here, so I was going to be punished. That's what I felt. That doing the right thing to try to protect my children was the wrong thing in the court eyes.
Now, do you have paperwork from DHS or the shelter or anything from your children that in which they documented post-traumatic stress disorder or your son's diagnosis of Tourette's?
Yes, I do. I have, well, and since we have been here, my son's twin sister has been diagnosed with Asperger's and PTSD.
I'm familiar with that because I worked in the mental health field prior to getting involved with advocacy. But just to let the general public know, Asperger's is a mild form of autism. They're generally high-functioning people that have Asperger's, and they're often very, very intelligent.
Yes, and she was diagnosed last year. I've known it for a very long time, but I was in another fight with that to get her the help that she needed in order to be able to, use her smarts, because she is very, very intelligent and an artist, and she has done a lot of healing. I mean, she has been able to do what the intention was for us to come here, was to heal. And so she has surpassed anything that I could ever. She's going to college. She's going to be going to college. She's in 11th grade, and I'm now have filed for custody here in the state of Wyoming, and fighting for custody for her because she has been with me for 4 years. And so back into the court system again. However, this time it will be, I believe, different. The DFS system, it has been very supportive, because my daughter has opened up more regarding the abuse, and her GAL also, which is guardian ad litem.
Yeah.
So there are things continuing to happen. I'm also going to be going back to court in Iowa also, because I feel that I do have the right to see my own son, and to have a relationship with him. And that's something that I believe the family court system took away from me.
I would like to ask you something that I imagine all of our viewers are wondering. How did it come to the point that your ex has one of the children and you have the other? If they believe you are incompetent to the point where you need supervised visitation, how can they entrust you with taking care of the child that you do have custody of?
Well, the first year we were here, all of us, my daughter and I agreed to it, to have her put on a CHINS, which is a child in need of supervision, through the juvenile court. She needed some extra help. She was really having a hard time dealing with life. She was cutting, and I know where a lot of it stemmed from. She was hospitalized at one time, so this is something that she just needed some extra help. Well, that is the reason why her father knew that a juvenile order supersedes any other order from anywhere else. So he knew, evidently he knew, that if he would have taken her also, that he would have been in trouble with the state of Wyoming. So he left her with me and just took my son. So that's the reason why she is still with me, is because she has had this CHINS petition, and her worker has been very, very understanding and wanting to help in any way that she can, which is a a lot of opposite that I had experienced in the state of Iowa. So it's still, a little different for me to trust that, is real. But I can see over and over again that things are, they are for her. They are for my daughter.
Right.
They believed her, and they're willing to help. So, Lucas, I don't think I was supposed to say his name, but my son, he doesn't have that support in the state of Iowa that my daughter does here.
That's too bad. So is your son getting any assistance with the issues that he has and everything he's being forced to deal with?
No, no. In fact, he was on an IEP in school, and he was taken off of it also. His grades have slipped. I have numerous things on. The only way that I know of anything is I get on the website for his schooling, and there have been numerous tardies, numerous absences, or different periods that they couldn't find him, and yet nothing is being done about it.
So while your daughter is blooming and doing really well, your son unfortunately does not have that same situation. Another thing that really strikes me with your situation in particular, Lisa, that these children who have been together since they were in your womb have now been separated. And that's very unhealthy for twins. There's a very special bond between twins, whether they are fraternal or identical.
Correct. And it breaks my heart. I mean, that is the one thing that breaks my heart the most, is that a court system would separate twins, knowing, I mean, it says in this order that my daughter had a CHINS petition. So the court in Iowa knew that he was not going to be able to take Hope. And I know I said her name. I'm sorry, but
That's okay. You're allowed to share as much or as little of your case as you want to. It's difficult with teenagers because of their access to the internet and what's out there online. We understand that they don't want to be embarrassed by things, and they don't want their friends, of course, to see about what has taken place with their parents, especially if it's not positive. I'm gonna, Lisa, just leave it to the point that we're going to assume that your children don't have the same last name as you. Even if they don't, or even if they do have your last name, Smith is, I think, common enough that it won't directly, it won't be directly pointed to them by friends that may come across this.
I guess where I get stuck is that why a court system would do something like that, knowing that children are, okay, they are resilient, but when they're separated from their primary person that's taking care of them all of their life, and having to basically, go back into an abusive situation, why would professionals want that? And it just, that's where I have consistently been stuck, is not understanding that, because my brain can't, it just can't understand it.
It's my opinion, and I think we, should really feel blessed that we don't understand where they're coming from. If we did, we would be on the same wavelength and mindset as the perpetrators. Now, we've talked about a lot on your case. What was your work at the time that you were married? It's clear from what you said you have never been accused of abuse or neglect. What was your profession at the time that you were with your ex-husband and your abuser?
Well, when I was married, I did stay home for quite a while with the kids because at the time there were 4 children, and then I became lunch lady for the school district in Marshalltown, and I was a lunch lady for about 3 years, and then I knew I was going to need more full-time employment, so I went in for an interview to be a paraeducator for special needs kids in the preschool for the school district. And so for the last 3 years before I had to give up my position in order to come here to Wyoming. And it has been, I loved my job. I loved working with the children, having the experience that I have with the twins. It was very, very rewarding, and I'm hoping to get back into that. However, the things that have gone on with the court system and with the kids has been my first priority.
Yes.
So.
Yes. That's completely understandable. That seems like something that you'd be really good at, especially with your experience with your own children.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Because I live it every day. I mean, it's something that I've been involved with on a daily basis. So I guess that's what God said that He wanted me to do.
That's awesome that you can take your experience. I also understand that you're advocating for other moms that are in similar situations as you are. You are doing really good at that. I've personally known Lisa for many, many years. Anytime anybody has an issue, she just really jumps in and helps with whatever she possibly can. I just want to emphasize that these protective moms who are affected by the courts and these injustices in the court system are people that reach out to help others with absolutely nothing that they expect in return. It's not for personal gain, it's just to help the children solely. And I found that with many of the women that I've worked with. It's not about our individual cases. It's about what we can do together and to bring justice to these judges who are utilizing the law in a way it was never intended to be. These laws were meant to protect children and not meant to harm them or put them in harm's way.
I am. And I will continue. Regardless of what's going on with my case, I will continue to advocate for other protective moms and for I'm a volunteer for domestic violence. I want this to mean something. I want this to the pain that has happened. I want it to something good to come out of it, and so I will never be silent again. I will raise my voice to this to bring awareness of what is really going on in our family court system.
Lisa, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me tonight, and I thank you so much for opening up about your case. I really believe that these children one day will have access to these videos when they're older and when they can understand more of what's going on, and they will see that we're fighting for them, and they will know that they're loved and they're cared for. Keep up what you're doing. You're doing awesome with your advocacy. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.
You too.